going to teach you how to make a maze game in Scratch with coding. So this is all around direction, position and orientation. Um, so first of all, we've got our sprite, the cat, and we need to be able to control the sprite with our arrow keys. So we're going to use the events when right arrow key pressed, and then we're going to change the x coordinates by, I think we'll make it 10. So in other words, that means when someone pushes a right arrow, this sprite will move 10 points along the x-axis. Now, if you have a look at your backdrops, you'll notice I put in a grid backdrop. Then I'm just going to pop back to the sprite script, and you can see that if you start in the middle there and go up by 10 points on the x-axis, you're moving this way. So what would you need to do to move this sprite, the cat, when you click the left arrow or the up arrow or the down arrow? I'm going to pause this video here and give you 10 minutes to figure out the code for yourself. Okay, so if you have got your coding right, you should have code blocks that look something like this. So you've got events for each arrow, keyboard arrow pressing, and your X or Y axis will change accordingly. And if you use that backdrop, you would have been able to figure out how to do that. Now, the next thing we need to do is go back to our backdrops, back up here to this tab, and I've already loaded a maze backdrop for you. You could draw your own one, or you could go to mazegenerator.net, the link is on our wiki, generate your own, download it as a SVG, and download it and then upload it into Scratch. I would suggest using the width of 12 cells by 8 cells. Or you can just use this one. Now, the way we're going to work this maze is that, first of all, we need to make our sprite, the cat, fits into it. So if we click onto our sprite, go to the shrink button and shrink that sprite down to a size that'll work in the game. And now I've put them in the beginning of the maze. Now, we are going to make this sprite, this game, work so that if the sprite touches the black lines of the backdrop, it will return to this position. And that's its starting position as well when we click the green arrow. However, I'm clicking on the backdrop now again. What we wanted to do is to know when it's won the game, and I'm going to put in a line width here of a different color right at the end of the maze. Okay, I should paint it on the paint side. Now we are going to, oops, why did it not go there? Not sure why that's not working here. There it goes. So we're going to program our sprite so that if it touches black, it will return to its starting position. If it touches red, it will say I've won, and that will be the end of the game. So I'm going to click on scripts again. So at this point we are going to pause while you see if you can figure out how to make the cat sprite move, and if it touches black it returns to the beginning, if it touches red it says you've won. So if you've thought through your code, you would know you'd need an event to start the game, which is when the green arrow is clicked, and you would need to set your sprite to its starting position, which is down there. And I'm going to say I'm looking at my coordinates in this part of the screen, but it also shows where my sprite is up here. And I'm just going to adjust it a bit, I want it further down. So that is x19, y coordinates minus 167. So I'm going to set that to 19 minus 97. Here's a hint. You're going to need if then statements, and you are going to, which is under control, and under sensing you want to find touching, change it to the color black, and those two are your main next step blocks. You want to program this sprite so that if it touches black, then it returns to the x and y coordinates of the beginning of the game. We're going to pause the video now while you see if you can code that on your own. Okay, let's return and see if your code matches mine. So I've got if touching black then. So what I'm going to do, I want my sprite to return to this beginning position if it touches any of these black lines. And I've already got the XY coordinates here. So I'm just going to right click and duplicate them. So I've got one there and one in my if then statement, and join those up. So now when the green arrow is clicked, sets x coordinates to 19, y to minus 67, which is over here. If the sprite is touching a black color, then set its coordinates to x19, y minus 67, which is there. So if it touches black in any part of this maze as it's moving, it's going to return to this beginning position. Now, we are going to pause in a moment, and I want you to see if you can code the next part of the programming. You're going to need if then statements. If the sprite touches a red color, then it says you've won, and it stops all the coding. So it shows the end of the game. Give that a go. Okay, let's have a look at your code and see how it compares to my code. Here's my if-then statements. If touching the red color, then say, which is under looks, say I1 for 2 seconds and then stop all. I'm going to connect that block. Now, if you test this, you're going to find that this is if-then statements here is only going to work once. So we need to go into control and we need to find a forever loop and pop that around both of them, join the code together, and now our code should work completely. Let's test it. So it seems to be working. We're going to pause here while you adjust and alter your code and get it working perfectly. Then I'd like you to see if you can extend your game. What could you do to improve this game? Well done. I'm really interested to see how you've managed to take that game and make it even better than it was, hopefully using some positioning and orientation within the game. Remember to save your game on your sign-in and email the URL to swood@autonga.school.nz and I'll have a good look at those. Well done.